Good morning and welcome to Sports Shorts Daily. I'm Tommy Christ. We're going to be joined in just a minute by Ronnie Rance. He's got a last-minute errand he had to run. And we're going to talk some Baton Rouge Regional, some college baseball, and we have a special guest today as we've got Ron Swoboda, who was part of the 1969 amazing New York Mets. He made the great catch in right field, and he's done a lot of sportscasting, a lot of ball games. Most recently, he was doing the ball games for the Tulane Green Wave. And, of course, they're in Baton Rouge today for a 2 o'clock start in Game 1 of the Baton Rouge Regional against the LSU Tigers. Ron, good morning. How are you?
I'm great. How you doing?
We're doing really good. It's baseball regional, 64 teams all over the country, feeling good this morning about their chances, and some are going to win, some are going to lose. Now, you've covered the Tulane team all season long. Not a good season for Tulane in the big picture, but they got hot at the right time. What can you tell us about the Tulane Green Wave?
Yeah, I think this is the most amazing story in all of college baseball because the year started with about 5 guys going out the portal. They were a couple of guys would have been weekend starters for them, a closer for their pitching staff left through the portal, and their starting catcher and their best hitter in Ethan Groff. He left for Ole Miss, so they were wounded pretty badly when Jay Ullman took over as head coach, and they started working from there. And admittedly, the numbers don't lie. Their start to the season was horrendous, and their troubles continued along the way. And the problem is, when a team starts getting a little better and they start putting up maybe a little more organized at-bats and scoring a few more runs, given where you started, the Green Wave, the first thing you accomplish is your losses get tougher. You're not getting beaten early in ball games. You're building leads now that you can't hang on to because the bullpen is dysfunctional. And Jay Ullman is wearing out a couple of pair of shoes, running out there changing pitchers every inning and a half. It was pretty crazy. But the remarkable thing is that they hung in there and they were getting better. And for them to make it through the American Conference playoffs in baseball was remarkable, but maybe it's the nexus of a couple of different things. First off, you had to get by a couple of teams in Houston who had swept you in your last home conference series. They swept you in 3 games. You had to beat them 2 out of 3, but Houston knew they were in the picture, right? Houston knows there's a tomorrow for them in the regular NCAA playoffs, and so does East Carolina in the championship game. And East Carolina, coming out of the losers bracket, had to play a lot more baseball, and they looked a little tired. So a couple of things happened for Tulane, but it was in every way remarkable and completely unpredictable. And that's where we are now, going up against an LSU team that I'm assuming they start Paul Skeens today at 2 o'clock.
Well, they haven't announced that yet. And that's been a big topic in the Baton Rouge
Oh, yeah.
area.
Well, you can play with that.
Yeah. And Jay Johnson's really close to the vest, like most coaches are. And I suspect we'll hear something in the next couple of hours, usually an hour before the game they post the lineup. And it may be that. I think whoever's pitching already knows, and we'll see. We're visiting with Ron Swoboda, been around baseball his entire life, 1969 Mets World Series team, made the great catch in right field, been covering Tulane baseball. Ron, you've been around baseball all your life. It's a game. There's always a tomorrow, as they say. There's another game. And now postseason, I get, what you said. There's not a tomorrow for some teams as of today. But these are still college baseball players with a good coaching staff. And, you never know when that bloop hit or that line drive that's just fair down the line can turn some things around. And that's what it has happened to Tulane. I mean, they've never lost 40 games in a season in the history of the program. So many
Right.
great years under Joe Brockoff and Rick Jones, et cetera. And then all of a sudden now they've got some motivation and they're feeling good about themselves. And like I tell people the other night here in Baton Rouge, I said, hey, these guys are college baseball players. They're on scholarship in most cases, and they got good coaches. Now, in the big picture, do you think they're going to beat LSU? Probably not, but you got to line up. You got to get 27 outs.
Yeah, I saw them when LSU came to Turchin Field here in New Orleans, and LSU beats them. I think it was 11-5. But the remarkable thing about it was that I thought halfway through the game, you felt like this was a Tulane team putting up better at-bats, scoring some runs, and giving themselves a chance before a much superior batting order started rolling up the numbers on them. But it appeared that Tulane had something going. And it was clear they were better. And you know, the tough thing for Jay Ullman as the head coach is the measure of that didn't necessarily show up in the win column. It was in the particulars of games and how you were getting through them and at what point, you know, you lost. And most of the time they, you know, a lot of their losses were because they couldn't hold leads, but they had a chance. They were giving themselves a chance. And what seemed to pop up in the conference tournament was they got a couple of pitching performances. They continued to score runs. They scored big. You know, I mean, it's like if you look at LSU in the SEC tournament, you scored 22 runs in 2 games and you lost both games to those teams from Arizona. I mean, go figure that one out.
Yeah.
Maybe it means they're a little, you know, maybe it means that LSU is a little more gettable for Tulane if they have to get into the pen a little bit. Now, if they start Paul Skeens, that to me that's the game changer. And I can't imagine they wouldn't. I just cannot imagine in a double elimination where you don't have another Paul Skeens and your bullpen has been a little on the shaky side. And you could let Tulane in the door if you give them a better option in a starting pitcher today in a double elimination. So it's really fascinating how this thing is shaping up. You know, Tulane new in the picture, but they have nothing to lose. They're playing on house money, and there is no failure for them. And there's no failure for them. You know, it was kind of like my 1969 New York Mets going up against the Baltimore Orioles in 1969. The Orioles back then were hugely favored. We were 100-1 shot at any point in the season, and yet somehow, you know, we get through them with our pitching. And you know how it is in baseball. As our pitching authority, Ronnie Rance just shows up here. I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to see what's left of you. I remember when you were a fat guy. You were looking good, brother. You were looking good.
Thank you, Ron. By the way, 2 Rons on the show. First time we've ever had that, by the way. 2 Rons.
Well, we'll call you Ronnie, all right? Is that okay?
There you go. I go by Ronnie anyway.
Well, my mom used to call me Ronnie, but not many other people.
Well, look, I enjoyed you know, watching you and Jack on the games this year and everything. And the Lambert kid, who, you know, the catcher for you guys, he's a former you know, Catholic High kid from Baton Rouge, and played for the Baton Rouge Rougarou in the Texas Collegiate League last summer. So Tommy and I are very familiar with him, obviously through the Rougarou. Glad to see him had a really good year for you guys.
Well, he had a good year, and the interesting thing is a move made by Jay Ullman. He's put Lambert into the DH spot and let Seth Beckstead is doing the catching in every game, and he's clearly a better catch and throw guy behind the plate. And I think it's freed up Lambert, who's handled the DH role pretty well. And so he looks a little fresher at the plate, and you're protecting yourself a little bit in the running game. Not that LSU lives and dies with the running game.
Right.
You know, they they hammer you. And that lineup, we saw that lineup in Turchin, as I was telling Tom. And I understand Tommy White is expected to play tonight, and that's a big thump in that order that you're going to have to get through. But I'm curious to just see what happens here. I have no clue. I mean, I don't think on the balance of it, everything to me depends on who's the starting pitcher for LSU, and how is Tulane going to handle this. It was interesting. They were working out this week, and all of their situational drills defensively, they ran chaotic noise in Turchin Field. They put it up on the PA system to kind of create this noise and chaos while they were doing their infield drills and hitting the ball around and playing different situations defensively. I thought that was pretty interesting. They tried to create an environment that they might something similar to what they might experience at the box in Baton Rouge. I don't know if you can, coming in there as Tulane against the LSU, I'm not sure you can get all the way there, but they tried to create some aspects of it, which I thought were interesting. Like I said before, Tulane has nothing to lose here. There's no failure for them.
Let me ask you this, Ron. They go 19-40. Did they have injuries? Did they just play below par? What caused them to have such a bad year? And then what, in essence, fixed them to have such a good week?
Well, it's a smaller sample. And I think we were talking about the possibility that some things inured to their benefit in the conference tournament. You'd just seen Houston the weekend before, and they sweep you, all right? They sweep you 3 games. Then you go to Memphis on the road to finish up your conference schedule, and they 10-run rule you twice. So you're not looking too hot in either direction. You know what I'm saying? But the point is, Tulane got a couple of performances in going into the tournament. They start Carmouche, and I suspect Dylan Carmouche is Tulane's starter today.
Right.
And, he can go either way. He could go out there against that. There's a couple of, right-handed hitters in that lineup that for LSU you got to worry about. And he's going to have to be fine with his fastball and establish something with his heat and then try to play off of that, I think. And you know what? LSU will not make that easy because they're going to score runs. And what happened to them is when Carmouche failed in his first outing in the conference, Chandler Welsh, a guy that's been up and down and in and out and unpredictable all year long, a guy with good stuff, came in and gave him 5 in the 3rd innings and gave him a chance to get back in a ball game they were out of, and they win that one. They lose the second game against they 10-run rule Memphis in the tournament, and then they play the second game against Houston and lose it. And then they come back in the championship game, winner takes all, and look kind of frightened early on. The shortstop made a couple of errors. They looked like a team that was ready to cough it up after so much success in the conference tournament. But they ended up getting some really good finishing roles out of their pen, something that they were crying for all year long. Michael Fowler came in and helped them nail one down. And in the championship game, a starting pitcher for them who's really been the most consistent guy, Ricky Castro, comes in and he gets the last out. And they walk out winners, and everybody's going, did I just see that? I watched every pitch on my phone. I wasn't at the tournament, but I watched it on my phone on ESPN Plus, and I was in utter disbelief that they were able to hold it together. So here we are in fantasy land with Tulane, and they're facing a team that's slid a little in the rankings in college baseball, but LSU out of the SEC is on an order that you don't face in the American athletic conference. You don't face that level of ability in teams. So they know they're stepping up. They know they're going into uh, a tough place to play as the visitor, and you're Tulane, and it's Louisiana. So they're gonna experience something here that they haven't seen all year long in a game that really matters.
It's really interesting. First time LSU and Tulane are playing each other in postseason in baseball since Skip Bertman's last game, 2001 at Zephyr Field. Ron, thanks so much, man, for taking time this morning to join us. Really appreciate it. Good seeing you.
Always a pleasure, Ronnie. You guys, Tom, thank you, man. You guys have a good one. I'm fascinated with this one. I can't wait to check it out. You all take care.
Thank you. The great Ron Swoboda right there. Ron's been a Louisiana and a New Orleans legend and covering sports, of course, back in the day as a broadcaster and an anchor, and then, of course, worked for the Zephyrs for many, many years, and then now does Tulane baseball for ESPN+. Tommy, he mentioned Carmouche, another Baton Rouge kid, U-High pitcher, potentially going to get the ball today. That's what everybody expects because he's left-handed. And, you know, LSU, if they have a little bit of a kryptonite, it is that, facing good lefties. We just saw that happen against Arkansas a couple times this year and others. But this is going to be fun because Dylan Cruz and Tommy White are going to get to experience what it's like to play a regional at Alex Box Stadium, which is something LSU baseball hasn't done since 2019.
Yeah, it's only Dugas and Beloso that can say they played in a regional at the box, you know, Skip Bertman Field. So it's a 2:00 game. It's going to be a little warm today, but I think it's going to be a big crowd, and that's going to be great for White and Cruz and everybody else to experience that. Of course, the $64 million question is who's pitching. And to my knowledge, it hasn't been announced yet. Now, typically, about an hour before first pitch, their lineup goes up on Twitter and Facebook. So that might be when everybody finds out who's pitching. I think it's going to be Ty Floyd. Ron Swoboda, right before you jumped on, said he can't imagine him not throwing Paul Skeens, you know, the best guy in the country. So everybody you talk to thinks one thing or the other. What do you think, Ronnie?
I've been saying Ty Floyd all along is what I would do. And I thought Hunt Palmer did a really nice job yesterday or day before of kind of giving his thoughts on it. He agreed with Ty Floyd, but he explained in his philosophy was that, hey, well, if you got the Thatcher Hurd on Sunday, which obviously that's the thought, Thatcher Hurd versus somebody else's fourth pitcher, because whoever you're going to play, you'd be playing them in their fourth game, and it would only be your third game. So they'd be so down the line in pitching, LSU would have a tremendous advantage. And I think that's important, is that if you go Thatcher Hurd, you're going Thatcher Hurd versus Tulane's best versus Thatcher Hurd versus somebody else's number 4, where you got a distinct advantage. So that's what I would do. I go Ty Floyd, let him throw his 120 pitches. He's done for the weekend, and hopefully that gets you through 7, maybe even in the 8 if you're lucky. TK, let's talk a little Rougarou before we get out of here. The Baton Rouge Rougarou last night picked up 2 wins this week. They're now 2-1, back-to-back victories. 2 dramatic games for 2 different reasons. On Wednesday, the Rougarou walk off the Victoria Generals on a base hit, bottom of the ninth, down a run, 2 outs, 2 strikes. But then last night, they had an easier time winning 61 over Seguin. But the fireworks were after the game, where a young man, a 12-year-old, had bet the Rougarou team and said, hey, if y'all lose, y'all give me a game jersey for free. And if I lose, I'll let you shave my head. And he had a big coif of hair and everything, hadn't had a haircut in 8-9 months, and that was a big hit on the field after the game.
Yeah, I caught wind of that as I was leaving the press box, and I was watching that, and everybody was fired up and excited. Hey, he was a man of his word. He lost his bet, and he paid up. But look, Rougarou played 3 games, 3-game homestand. They take 2 out of 3. Had a chance Tuesday night, the game they lost. They had tie-in run, win and run on base, bottom of 9. It just didn't work out. But, Ronnie, a little numerology for you. They played 3 games. 3 different times they had a 3 spot on the scoreboard in a particular half inning, and got 3 games in the book. So, but what I've noticed too, with watching every pitch of all 3 games, Coach Southall, Rooster Southall, he gets first and third. He tries to put some pressure on the defense. He's going to bunt. He's going to run. He's going to play baseball. And I thought that was cool. got some really good pitching performances. I know it's an early call, 3 games versus the 40-something games last year, but this team looks to be pretty good because they didn't hit the ball, outstanding in the 3 games, but they found a way to win, made all the routine defensive plays, threw a guy out at the plate with the right fielder to the second baseman to the plate, threw a guy out. I mean, it's some good baseball. Back home next Wednesday and Thursday. Need people to make their plans now. Go to brrougarou.com.
Tommy, tell us about Tremonti's. I'm going to let you finish up as I get out of here. We'll see everybody tomorrow for more Sports Shorts Radio. 10 to noon will be at Calandro Supermarket on Segan and Perkins in Baton Rouge. Tune in to 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. And Tommy, tell us about Tremonti's.
All right, Tremonti's Meat and Seafood lunch special today, fried catfish with crawfish etouffee. Going to have some boiled crawfish today at 3 o'clock. A lot of people will be watching the LSU game. Going to have some crawfish. Going to be the last day of the crawfish. So if you're craving them, you're wanting to have them, get over here. They got the full-service catering, small groups, large groups. Tremonti's Meat and Seafood, Jefferson Highway in Baton Rouge, right down the block from Parkview Baptist Church and School. Big special on Corazon Tequila now. All the wine and whiskey and spirits for the weekend, the sausage, the chicken, the Chairman's Reserve meats, the Wagyu steaks. They got it all at Tremonti's Meat and Seafood here in Baton Rouge. As Ronnie said, don't forget Sports Shorts Radio tomorrow morning, 104.5 ESPN, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. Ronnie and I and a bunch of guests will mix it up for you. And as always, Sports Shorts Daily is presented by the LeBears Casino and Hotel in Baton Rouge, the Barstool Sportsbook, where you can bet on the NBA Finals, Major League Baseball, the NCAA tournament for college baseball, and much, much more. By the way, Nuggets win game 1 last night, 104-93. I gave you the pick yesterday. Nuggets minus 3.5 first quarter. Boom, it hit. They were leading by 9 at the end of the first quarter. So tomorrow on the radio, I'll have a pick for you. Game 2, not till Sunday night, a couple of days off in the NBA. Hey, don't forget all our sponsors. Don't forget to like and share this video. That's very important. Go to brrougarou.com. Next Wednesday night, June 7th, will be AP Baseball Night, Ascension Parish Youth Recreation Baseball. Players get in free with a guest wearing their AP hat or jersey. That'll be posted at the Facebook page for AP Baseball. And, of course, all the Baton Rouge Rougarou social media platforms as well. The team hits the road for a few days and then back home next Wednesday and Thursday at Pete Goldsby Field. Have a wonderful Friday, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out on the radio tomorrow. And we thank Ron Swoboda from the 1969 World Series champion New York Mets, who covers Tulane baseball on the ESPN Plus app, for joining us a little bit earlier. We'll talk to you again real soon. Have a wonderful Friday.